ever think about the things that you say, not just to other people, but yourself? What effect, if any, those things actually really do have? I don't just mean the superficial effects or the emotional reactions to the words that you say, but is there something deeper, a more tangible physical effect? Dr. Masaru Emoto spent the last 20 years of his life studying the molecular structure of water. It's said that Emoto believed that water is a blueprint for our reality, and that human consciousness and intention can actually affect water and change it. After photographing frozen water crystals from different water sources under a microscope, he began to experiment with the effects of different letters, then words, then pictures on water crystals. He would expose the water sources to the pictures, to the words, and then freeze them and photograph them to see if these things had any effect on the frozen crystals. What he came back from the microscope with is some pretty amazing stuff. Over the years, this evolved into playing different pieces of music for water to see if the water structure changed, and praying over water, and then photographing it before and after he prayed over it. And what he found was so astonishing that even today, people are still trying to debunk it as pseudoscience because it has huge implications on, well, everything. And nobody wants the personal responsibility of that, I don't think. Saying nice, good, beautiful things to water, playing beautiful pieces of music to it, or offering heartfelt prayers over the water produced beautiful shapes under Dr. Emoto's microscope. But on the flip side, hateful messages and angry, disjointed music produced misshapen, ugly shapes under his microscope. A few months ago, I was looking into Dr. Emoto's work, and I came across people all over YouTube carrying out something they called the rice experiment, which is based on Emoto's work, and with what has been, for many people, some pretty surprising results.
What follows is the impact of our actual words. Perhaps our intentions matter. Sterilizing a few jars and cooking some standard rice, we put 3 batches of this food filled with absorbed water to the test, with emotional treatment as the variable.
All right, so here's what we got. So what's this one? This one, this one.
Hate, love, and love.
The message is a thought, not the word. Thought, not the words. The vocal mechanism codes the words into vibrations and transmits them as sound across the communications channel, which is, of course, the air.
So here's the results of our 2-month-long rice experiment. So this is rice that for weeks we told really nice, loving things to. I mean, as much as you can love a jar of rice, we tried to love this jar of rice, which at first when you do this experiment you are going to feel silly. That's just how it is. Or not if that's your thing, rice in jars. But I'm just saying, I at first felt kind of silly, but after a while you get used to it. It's kind of like talking to plants, or, well, not really because plants are alive, but it's just this rice feels even more silly to say hateful things to an inanimate object. But sometimes we didn't even say hateful things to the rice. Sometimes we just hissed at it. But it's the intention. That's the main difference here. That's what matters. And this
is the control rice.
This one, we ignore. Before I get into this, I just want to say that when you look this up on the internet, what you will find are a lot of very hateful people who are angry that we would dare to call this an experiment because we're not doing it in a level 4 biohazard unit or something, and that this isn't real science and they're going to debunk it. And I just think that's kind of ironic and silly because they go into it with the intention of debunking it, and then they tell you how they tried it and it totally failed, and here's all the ways it could fail, and it just takes one molecule in the air to make the whole thing. whatever, okay? Yeah, if you go into it with that intention, that's kind of what this experiment is designed to show you. And so it's no wonder that you were able to debunk it. That's kind of the whole point. So I just think that's really silly. People get so ate up about real science. Okay, the point is, it's an experiment that a layperson can do in their home, to show the importance of intention and the effect that that can have. And I was actually really surprised by the results that we ended up with, because I kept an open mind on this one. I'd seen people do this experiment, and I'm homeschooling my son, so I thought for science class we could try this just to see what we ended up with. And I'm just really surprised, actually, at what we got, because check this out. So let's start with this love rice. This is our love rice here. And I'm going to turn it to the side, and hopefully you can see that, and I'll have close-up shots as well. But this rice actually doesn't look that bad at all. There's no mold in it, if you can see that. There's no mold in this rice at all. It's a little discolored. It's turning a little gray. But there's also hardly any condensation in this jar. And so that, almost from a distance, looks like just normal cooked rice. You wouldn't be able to tell that this has been sitting in this jar for 2 months now. And it's way better than this right here. Looks like a mutated nightmare out of Silent Hill. It's really, really disgusting. Some of this is actually turning orange and red. It looks like it's rusting in the jar. In the front right here, you have this nasty green mold pile that's actually growing fur. There's all kinds of condensation going down the sides of the jar. I mean, it looks really disgusting. There's like a bright orange piece of rice. I didn't even know rice could turn bright orange, but it did. This is really disgusting. That is nasty. It's nasty from super far away, and visually you can see right away there's a huge difference between this jar and this jar. But what I think is actually the most interesting for me was the ignored rice, which also has a ton of condensation in it. In the back, you have what used to be gray rice that's starting to turn black. There's a big black mold spot in the middle underneath here, and the entire thing is covered in what looks like snow, like a big mound of white mold. And there's also a ton of condensation in it as well. And so none of this rice looks the same at all, even remotely. This is rice, this is organic rice that was cooked with reverse osmosis water in the same batch, and then was placed into 3 of the same type of jar that had been sterilized with boiling water in the same exact manner at the same time, placed in the same spot on the counter. And I know the debunkers say, well, just one molecule getting in there, but you should expect that this rice will look even remotely similar. And it doesn't look anything alike. All 3 of these jars are very different. And so how is that explained by just claiming, oh, it's just one molecule in the air? I mean, come on. This is really different from here to here. I mean, this is night and day difference. I also think people are just waiting around for someone else to always tell them what the answer is to everything. And I don't think they realize how much power and control they actually do have over their own life. And I don't know, so I think some of the people that get real angry because they say this isn't a real science experiment or whatever, and they want to debunk it and tell you how powerless you really are and that there's nothing to it and everything like that. I think some of those people actually don't want this to be true, because I think they don't want to have to take responsibility for their own intentions and how those intentions have affected their life, possibly in negative ways, and the people around them too. This is going to make me think a lot harder about just the way I interact with everybody anymore. Just everybody. I mean, you hear people arguing in like a Target or something with each other, just real hateful things are coming out of their mouth. I'm going to be thinking about this rice, you know? Or all those moms that I always see out at the grocery store and they're completely ignoring their children who are, you know, little babies in the shopping cart playing with iPads and stuff. Ignoring. I mean, look at this. And just love. The intention of love. I mean, this is 2-month-old rice and it looks almost good enough to eat. There's hardly any condensation and no mold in this jar. How does that happen? Because the only real difference here is our intentions.
I wasn't that surprised because I did see the videos about this that other people had done, and the results are consistent. That's got to mean something. And I saw it done with apples and other food. And, you know, everything has a relationship of water. There's water in us, there's water in food. But I don't know if I had thought about it in such a tangible kind of way, the way it affects ourselves, each other, the way I treat other people. I mean, we all watch this happen for weeks. Other people have done this experiment. What's really going on here?
This, to me, I'll tell you what this reminds me of. Back when I was really depressed in my life and I had a lot of health issues and stuff, and I was really overweight, it was almost like it got to a point where I just wanted to gain more weight, almost like a shell to keep people away from me. I was very antisocial, had a lot of issues, and that's kind of what this reminds me of, because you know that neglect is also a form of abuse. Most of us realize that, but it's like this rice has built a shell over itself to protect itself from being ignored. As if it knew it was the ignored rice. I don't know how to explain all of that. I just know that the main difference here is our intentions and how that affected these things. Because that's the only real difference between this, and this. I mean, that's the only difference. You know, and obviously it's a very important one. And what this experiment tells us, what it proves to us, is that our intentions are very powerful. They're very important in your life. The average individual has no idea how much power he has simply by setting his own intentions. And there are lots of things that science cannot prove. And one of those things are cases that have come out where people had devastating diseases, cancer, stuff like that, and they thought themselves well. They literally thought themselves well. They refused to believe in their cancer. They refused to give it any more of their attention. And they spent all of their time believing that they were healed.
If a doctor should tell you that you have cancer, that if he doesn't operate, you're doomed to die, how do you believe in him? By agreeing with his diagnosis? No. You truly believe in the doctor when you let him operate, when you submit yourself to it.
There are people who have had cancer go into remission, and that's really the only thing that changed. And so science can't explain that. To me, this proves something that I already knew in my own life. You have seen this before. A person who gets up every day, they're a real Debbie Downer, and they go, oh, today's gonna suck, and then what happens? Their day sucks. They have set their intention that their day sucks, they believe their day will suck, and they attract a terrible, sucky day. They make it happen, you know? And it is that simple. A lot of things in this universe are really that simple, and this is one of them. And it kind of branches off into a whole direction of things that I have all kinds of questions about. You know, things that we've heard about how the observer changes the experiment. I mean, where do you think that kind of stuff comes from? I feel like it works on the same principle as 100th monkey syndrome, and that same principle of when you walk into a room and you see someone across the room and you just know that's a bad person because you get a feeling that you can't explain any other way. All of these things are connected, in my opinion.
For some reason, many people seem to have two kinds of faith. One they reserve for values they consider absolute. 2 times 2 equals 4, the law of gravity. And then a so-called religious faith, which is almost a retreat from fact into a realm of fantasy. They seem to have two compartments in their brain. They keep their science on one side, their religion in the other, with a wall between them. They're afraid to remove the wall, fearing that their faith will be swept away by fact and hard reality. To say the least, such a faith lacks honest conviction. Only a faith that is founded on truth can survive.
I know that it's really a silly idea to talk to rice, okay? I get it, but just do it to show yourself how powerful your intentions are and what kind of change that can make in your life. Do we need to be doing this to ourselves? A lot of us do this to ourselves. I know I'm guilty of having done it many times in my life. Do we need to do this to ourselves or this? You could be doing this every day to really affect their own life and the people around them in this kind of a way. Can you imagine what kind of world we would have? It's something to think about anyway.
Change the message from I hate you to I love you.
Dr. Emoto thinks that this experiment provides an important lesson, especially with regard to how we treat children. We should take care of them, give them attention, and converse with them. Indifference does the greatest harm.
Human beings begin life fully embodied with divine intelligence. What is this divine intelligence I speak of? It's our soul, that part of us that observes quietly behind what we do, think, believe, and feel, and it existed before this human life and will continue to exist after our present physical life transitions. We are indeed, as the popular phrase goes, spiritual beings having a human experience. Our soul is where unconditional love, unending forgiveness, compassion, harmony, peace, and joy reside. We are ultimately inseparable from this divine intelligence.
We've got a system of schooling which gives a completely different impression. It's all graded. And what we do is we put the child into the corridor of this grade system with a kind of, come on, kitty, kitty, kitty. And yeah, you go to kindergarten, you know, and that's a great thing because when you finish that, you'll get into first grade. And then, come on, first grade leads to second grade, and so on, and then you get out of grade school, you've got high school, and it's revving up, the thing is coming. Then you're going to go to college, and by Jove, then you get into graduate school, and when you're through with graduate school, you go out to join the world. And then you get into some racket where you're selling insurance. And they've got that quota to make. And you're going to make that. And all the time, this thing is coming. It's coming. It's coming. That great thing, the success you're working for. Then when you wake up one day about 40 years old, you say, my God, I've arrived. I'm there. And you don't feel very different from what you always felt. And there's a slight letdown because you feel there's a hoax. And there was a hoax. A dreadful hoax. They made you miss everything. We thought of life by analogy with a journey, with a pilgrimage, which had a serious purpose at the end, and the thing was to get to that end, success or whatever it is, or maybe heaven after you're dead. But we missed the point the whole way along. It was a musical thing, and you were supposed to sing or to dance while the music was being played.
We are here to teach you a lesson on the dance floor. But this song is not a dance. I will tell you a story. Brothers and sisters, this story is about a big, big man and a small, small man that made him. Small man says, oh big man, in all your greatness, what can I do for you? I beg you, give me a job now. Let me work 80 hours a week to make money so I can give the same money back to you, big man, when I buy your beautiful products. This is the system. Now to make big man big, now to make small man small. Make himself small man helpless, too weak to carry power. Thinking no big man better, thinking no big man smarter, thinking no big man deserves. Small man go clean as for right. King could be politician, big man could be business, control the bank, plenty money. Him offer you credit, will offer you mortgage payments, will make you indentured needs a more than you. It's big man corporation, big man corporation, started by corporation. Go ask now for unemployment, go now to politician, go for help for your family, fight for that social service. Hey son, just business. This is the system, but still the small man believes in the system. So him says to the big man, what can I sing for you? What can I buy from you? Who can I fight for you? What can I carry for you, big man? I'll carry your gun, I'll carry your gold, check. I'll carry your wine, I'll carry your flag, I'll carry your gun, I'll carry your gold, check. I'll carry your wine, I'll carry your flag, oh, yeah. Nothing is so heavy, yeah. Big man. Hey. The small man is so happy to work for the big man that all he can say is thank you for all that you do for me, for all that you do for me, for all that you do for me. Thank you for truth and justice, freedom, future surveillances, for liberating Iraq. I beg you give me the bill, $1 million missile when my child is hungry. You, I make for safer, safe from democracy. For your deregulation, deregulate yourself. All your plastic products, you feed me plastic food. Replace my gut with science, control my thoughts and dreams. For building big man buildings, so you can do big man things. For all that you do for me, for all that you do for me, for all that you do for me. Thank you. Oh, got pata, who can I kill for you? What can I carry for you? What can I do for you? How can I stay for you? Who can I kill for you? What can I carry for you? What can I do for you? How can I slay for you, big man? Whoa! Thank you, big man. Slay for you, kill for you, carry for you, kill for you, big man. Whoa! Maria, do de.
Their desire is to convince us that we are only one of a septillion other planets flying through infinite space. A septillion? Where do they get these numbers? A septillion has 24 zeros. They want us to think that we are nothing more than a cosmic accident caused by a big bang that took place 14 billion years ago. Again, where do they get these numbers? How one could draw that conclusion is unknown. The origin of man is deliberately being covered up from us. Man, woman, child, you are being deceived on a massive scale. Flat Earth, enclosed flat Earth, expansive plane flat Earth, or even infinite plane flat Earth with an infinite ceiling barrier, or possibly another plane of existence above us and below us. It means that this place was created, that you were designed, you were crafted, you are special and with purpose. A purpose being hidden from you on purpose. We are supposed to know our world and our reason for being. We've been swallowed whole by this economic fiat money system that controls and fuels this manufactured reality. Most of us know that we are slaves, and it's no wonder we desire to escape through movies, TV shows, and video games that happen to also further our programming and mental conditioning. We were never meant to live like this, and knowledge of our flat Earth is a step in the right direction. It's something that can't be taken from us. It's the fuel that we need. Embrace this flat world of ours and free your mind from the globalist mind control. It's time that we stand up for ourselves and our beautiful Earth.
I had my eyes closed, my ignorance was bliss, but then it died slow as I replaced it with my fist. Now I'd rather know and rise from this abyss. Now that I'm aware that I'm infinite consciousness, I had my eyes closed, ignorance was bliss. Now I'm being followed for spreading these messages. The threats might be hollow, my response serious. I reject rain man and umbrellas till get wet. I had my eyes closed. I had my eyes closed. Hey, hey, hey. My eyes closed.
You shouldn't just take on any one religion and call it your own, because that's like a waste of your mind and your life. We've got this whole life to live here, existing in this big mystery. I think it's everybody's responsibility not to make such a hasty decision as to buy wholesale some prepackaged box of beliefs, and instead to withhold judgment as long as possible, all the way, I'd say, because I don't think anybody really knows what happens at the moment of or after death. So instead of having it be a foregone conclusion, how about everybody live their life in the present and create your own religion? I think everybody should have their own religion, and they should be their only disciple, their only follower, and everyone should have their own metaphysics like that.
Right.
My personal belief, I don't know what you'd want to call it, what I feel is happening here is that we're in a dream. There's an objective, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent being, consciousness and intelligence that exists before and beyond all space, time, and matter. People have called that God, Tao, Brahma, Void, infinite consciousness, you name it. It's the one with a capital O thing that exists and pre-exists the material world. Now, if you're an objective being like that, all known to yourself, what do you do with your existence? The only thing you can do with your existence is to play make-believe, hide and seek, to create subjective things. You're the objective thing, right? So you have to create and you're a singularity as well. So you create a dualistic world like we're in here, sun, moon, day, night, male, female, inhale, exhale, everything good and evil, it's all dualistic like this. Of course, God is a singularity. So God, the good with an O, creates the devil, the evil with a D, because it's necessary for there to be this other element. Otherwise, it's just God. It's just angelic robots on repeat. You have to have a demon or a devil or an evil for there to be freedom.
Why? Why do you feel that it's self-evident that there's a creator?
Oh, okay. Well, since I was even a teenager, I've always had
strong intuition, precognitions, instances of telepathy. And as I began to study mysticism, mystical experiences, synchronicity, Carl Jung, I started to become more aware of this type of thing. And I would have so many synchronicities that it was clear that I'm being guided by something that transcends my five senses, transcends my body. I'm not saying it's something external. What I think it is a connection to my soul. And I think that when you unplug from the matrix, you reconnect to your own soul. And the fact that I've had these synchronicities, you can't have 5 or 6 or 7 significant, meaningful coincidences in a day with the current laws of physics as we understand it. It defies probability. Some of these synchronicities, if you know what I'm talking about, it's just a meaningful coincidence that seems to be guiding you somewhere. And that type of stuff made me realize that there is something transcendent about this. And that alone to me says, that we are spiritual beings in physical bodies. We're having this physical experience, and it looks like the elite know this. So if they can cut us off from our souls, they can treat us as physical objects. They want to turn us into animals, is what they want to do. And that's what evolution is. It's taking your soul out of you. Heliocentrism is a religion where man has no soul. Man is an accident. That's why every atheist will say, oh, we're just on an insignificant planet around a dying sun, and we have no souls, and we're just egotistical monkeys. That's their way of trashing us and tearing us down and cutting us off of the fact that, no, we are spiritual beings. And so I see religion as just a way for government to get us to take our natural spirituality and plug it into them. Like they're hijacking it. And that's why I call them parasites. They're not just taking our money. They're cutting us off from our connection to our creator, to our real self, our true, unique, spiritual identity.
We can go on all day about the global conspiracy and international bankers, secret societies, political corruption, but at the end of the day, it's all just a bunch of hot air unless we're going to do something about it. And what can we do about it? What can we do in our day-to-day lives to combat, to counteract, to non-comply, or to just move away from the system and create our own path, walk our own unique natural paths?
The controllers of this world don't care if you know the truth about the shape of the Earth or fake space, as long as you stay in their negative energy system, their matrix. The system feeds on negative energy, mostly in the form of fear or division, and the so-called Flat Earth movement is perpetuating this system. In order to follow the positive path of light and not the path of darkness or negative energy, we must turn away from the matrix and not look back. There are more than enough positive, well-researched videos on YouTube regarding the flat Earth and fake space. After that, we are just feeding the beast when we take an adversarial approach. We think that we're exposing the mainstream political, academic, or science liars, but all we are really doing is creating more negative energy and feeding the same system we claim to be fighting. The easiest and most effective way to exit the matrix is to grow your own food. Food equals freedom. Growing food is like printing money, and anyone can do it. Whether you live on 5 acres, 1 acre, an urban lot, or an apartment, you can grow food. Fresh, local, sustainable, it's not as difficult as you would think. Being self-sufficient is the key to escaping the matrix. Growing your own food accomplishes this and at the same time connects you with the earth. You learn to respect and appreciate life. You work with nature instead of fighting against nature. You'll probably hear the term permaculture used to describe this lifestyle, and mostly it is learning how to become self-sufficient through thrifty, organic, sustainable methods to create your own what is called a food forest, or your own food supply. In my case, we have a basic, average residential home. Anyone can do it. Even urban farms can produce a ton of healthy, nutrient-dense, chemical-free food. Here we are growing chickens, quail, and a ton of crops, which include perennials such as katuk, an amazing spinach like bush, and moringa trees, longevity spinach, and we have annuals such as beans, cucumbers, broccoli, collard greens, kale. It's definitely a trial and error, but it's also fun. There's so many variables to take into consideration depending on where you live and what you want to grow, but the change in attitude is amazing. Our goal is to be able to completely live off of what we grow. If you want to escape the negativity of the Matrix and the conspiracy world, I would suggest that you start today and plant something. Watch some videos on how to get started, and you'll see that the change in health and attitude are incredible. Basically, instead of focusing on the negativity of the Matrix, we have turned our backs on that system and we focus on the positive light of this world. There is an imbalance in the world. You fix it by following the positive path of light. Slowly the light will grow as more people turn their backs on the Matrix. The darkness will shrink in that case, and balance will return. This is the point of most spiritual beliefs, to follow the path of righteousness, the path of the light, and to turn your back on the darkness. Now, we know that the system is full of lies, and so what do you do with that? Do you argue and do you participate in the system, or do you take a practical approach and figure out how to get out of the system and how to thrive out of the system, how to create your own system?
How would you define permaculture?
You could say is an attempt to build a good place to live.
And really understand what it is to live in a really meaningful way to survive, providing all your needs with a system of design.
This incredible design science that begins with ethics.
It's one of those things that's in front of you all the time, and until someone actually points out the relevance and what's happening all around in so many common ways, you just don't realize it. We can teach you how to survive without a struggle, in an abundant way, in a way that will provide all your needs. And you'll realize that if you follow this system, it becomes a very meaningful way to live, and a way that you can help other people as well.
Switch off your TV, it's the easiest thing you can do. Keep them out your home, they have no control over you. Take a walk in the sunshine, hear the children play, 'cause fear is what they want, and love is the way, yeah. Oh, I said love is the way. Oh, I said don't be afraid. Love. The sun shines every day, yeah. The sun shines every day, yeah. Yeah. The sun shines every day. The sun shines every day.